Hello everyone and welcome to my Y&R Insider 24 update channel. Phyllis and Cain pulled to each other, sparks fly. The Young and the Restless spoiler reveal that Cain Ashby and Phyllis Summers have been dancing their way around each other for ages. However, Cain swore months ago that nothing would happen between him and Phyllis. It would appear that Cain also may have developed feelings for Phyllis. Will Phyllis and Cain fall asleep together as a result of their heated argument? Cain Ashby's demise as a result of the Newman media expose. After the Newman media expose, Cain Ashby, Billy Flynn, has been shaken to the core. Cain, on the other hand, has pledged to sue Newman for their actions. Naturally, Adam does not think Cain can do anything about this. Cain believes he is within his rights and may even unleash his AI program on Newman media. In the end, Cain will realize that Phyllis can relate to him on a deep level because her children and her friends have turned against her too. When Cain realizes this, it may signal a fresh start for them. This week, Phyllis might end up comforting Cain. Will revenge and romance collide, causing sparks to fly between them? Phyllis Summers and Cain Ashby have a lot in common. Phyllis and Cain share much more than just pain. Cain and Phyllis both grew up in the shadow of their corrupt fathers. Both of them currently feel neglected. Cain and Phyllis are estranged from Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, and Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil. Their shared heartbreak could bring them together in a passionate way. Cain has been back in town for a while. Cain has been trying to get back with Lily all of the while. Now that Lily is done with him, Phyllis just may have a chance with him. Phyllis and Cain have both been broken and are out of options now. Will they make a connection now because they are both looking for one? A crucial moment ahead. Will Phyllis and Cain connect out of pure emotion, grief, frustration, and need, but their chemistry runs deeper? If they connect, could Phyllis and Cain actually decide they like each other and be completely committed? This might actually materialize. When she commits, Phyllis always puts everything into it. Will she be able to make Cain happy? Cain might be persuaded by Phyllis that she is not there to exact retribution or revenge. Is it possible that Phyllis and Cain will last? Will this result in a passionate affair that shakes Genoa City to its foundation? Sparks fly when Phyllis and Cain are pulled toward one another. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that sparks are set to fly between two of Genoa City's most complex and battle-scarred residents, Phyllis Summers and Cain Ashby. They have been circling one another for months, like two wounded souls who are drawn together by their shared defiance and pain. Both have said they will not get into messy relationships, but the heart rarely follows logic, just like in a soap opera. And now, as their shared loneliness deepens, passion and vulnerability might push them over the edge, straight into each other's arms. The fall of Cain Ashby as a result of the Newman media expose. Since Newman media released their devastating expose, Cain Ashby's, Billy Flynn, life has been a storm of betrayal and humiliation. His company is under fire, his reputation is in tatters, and his once unshakable confidence has been shaken to the core. The AI project of Cain, his pride, ambition, and means of retribution, is currently the subject of ruthless scrutiny. Cain's rage is stronger than ever. Mark Grossman's Adam Newman dismisses Cain's threats of legal action and insists smugly that he has no legal standing. But Cain won't change his mind. He is prepared to fight tooth and nail to reclaim his name because he believes he has been wronged. It's a familiar theme for him, the misunderstood underdog trying to rebuild in a world that keeps tearing him down. In the midst of this chaos, Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford, steps into his orbit. She knows that kind of humiliation too well, the sting of being the town pariah, the loneliness of knowing that the people you love have stopped believing in you. Phyllis emerges as the unexpected voice of reason when Cain begins to spiral and vows to unleash his AI on Newman media as a means of retaliation. She tells him to think instead of stopping. It's a subtle but powerful moment. She understands him, so she doesn't criticize or judge him. She knows that vengeance never fills the void, even if it satisfies for a moment. The beginning of something neither of them could have foreseen, a connection born of defiance and pain. Phyllis becomes a mirror of Cain's own journey as his professional life unravels. Both have been betrayed by allies, written off by family, and underestimated by everyone else. This recognition of one another's feelings has the potential to become the emotional spark that leads to desire, and desire into something far more perilous. Phyllis Summers and Kane Ashby's shared pain. Phyllis and Kane are not strangers to heartbreak. Both have lived their lives under the long, gloomy shadows of toxic family histories and complicated pasts. While Kane's childhood was shaped by lies and manipulation, Phyllis learned that love frequently comes with a price. They have both been referred to as troublemakers, schemers, and manipulators, and both of them have at times earned those labels. However, a shared vulnerability lies beneath their sharp edges, which few people ever see. Now, both are isolated and aching for connection. Phyllis's estrangement from Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, has left her adrift once again, forced to reckon with her tendency to sabotage her own happiness. She hides behind wit, sarcasm, and bravado, but beneath it all is a woman desperate not to be alone. Kane's estrangement from Lily Winters, Crystal Cullill, mirrors that loneliness. He's haunted by the collapse of their marriage, by the knowledge that Lily has finally moved on for good. For so long, Kane has defined himself by his attempts to win her back, to be the man she once believed in. However, Lily has stopped looking back. And that leaves Kane standing on emotional quicksand, unsure of who he is without her. Enter Phyllis, a woman who knows exactly what it means to be abandoned, to be misunderstood, to be punished for fighting too hard. Despite the layers of sarcasm and teasing in their initial conversations, there is recognition at the core of everything. They see each other for the first time in a long time, something neither of them has done before. They have a natural, organic chemistry that is based on shared wounds rather than being forced. When Phyllis confronts him after a heated argument, it's not just anger that ignites between them, it's passion. In one impulsive, unforgettable night, their pain, defiance, and need to feel alive again may collide. And once that line is crossed, there will be no going back. The moment that will rewrite history. Phyllis and Kane's turning point may come during one of Kane's darkest hours, as soap romances rarely occur in quiet moments. Phyllis shows up during Kane's retaliatory attack on Newman Media, possibly to support him in his planning or simply to check in. The confrontation begins with accusations. Kane accuses Phyllis of meddling, of pitying him. Phyllis fires back that he's acting like a child, letting bitterness consume him. But as tempers flare, the mask slips. Kane sees the woman who refuses to be defined by her mistakes, and Phyllis sees the broken man behind Kane's rage. One vulnerable confession leads to another, a shared memory, a brush of the hand, and suddenly, everything changes. The air between them thickens, charged with tension that's been simmering for weeks. For once, neither of them is trying to manipulate the other, they're simply two people who've run out of excuses to pretend they don't care. A passionate evening may result from a single impulsive kiss, not out of lust alone but rather out of recognition and need. The next morning, reality will hit hard. They'll tell themselves it was a mistake, that it meant nothing. They have, however, opened a door that neither of them can close, and the truth will be impossible to deny. A deeper emotional connection. After their possible night together, the story won't just be about passion, it will be about emotional rebirth. Phyllis may finally meet someone who doesn't need her to be perfect because she has always defined herself through chaos and conflict. Kane, who has spent years chasing redemption and validation, might find in Phyllis someone who accepts him as he is. Both are fighters, survivors, and deeply flawed, which means they might be perfect for each other in ways they can't yet see. Kane's practical, analytical mind could balance Phyllis's impulsive tendencies, while Phyllis's emotional insight could help Kane face his guilt and self-doubt. Still, Genoa City doesn't take kindly to new power couples, especially when both halves have long lists of enemies. Almost immediately, whispers will begin. Not necessarily because she still loves Kane, but because she can't believe he would turn to someone like Phyllis will cause Lily to be furious. Even if Nick and Phyllis are no longer together, he will still feel betrayed because his protective instincts will kick in because he will be convinced that Kane is bad news. And Peter Bergman's Jack Abbott, who has always been Phyllis's tricky confidant, might struggle with his own conflicted emotions as he watches her move on. The kind of explosive drama that The Young and the Restless excels at is brought about by their developing relationship, which will put old friendships to the test and rekindle old rivalries. A turning point in Kane's storyline. For Kane, this relationship could mark the beginning of a redemption arc, but it could just as easily spell disaster. He is already at risk due to his AI project, his lawsuit against Newman Media, and his growing distance from business. Depending on how their relationship develops, Phyllis's influence could prevent him from committing suicide or push him over the edge. Phyllis might convince Kane that revenge isn't the way to win, encouraging him to rebuild instead of destroy. But Kane's darker instincts could just as easily lure Phyllis into another spiral of scheming, something she's been trying to avoid for months. Together, they could either become a powerhouse couple who rise above their mistakes or a chaotic duo that burns everything in their path. Their story will hinge on one key question: can two broken people heal each other, or will they only reopen old wounds? Phyllis's perspective: craving connection. For Phyllis, this chapter represents something rare, a chance to start fresh without the baggage of her old relationships. Nick, Jack, and Danny all come with long histories and emotional complications. On the other hand, Kane is unfamiliar territory, unpredictable, challenging, and, most importantly, someone who does not hold her up to high expectations. He knows who she is, flaws and all. She might finally be set free by that honesty. Phyllis has spent years trying to prove she deserves love, fighting to be accepted despite her impulsive mistakes. Kane meets her where she is, broken but still standing, and he doesn't ask her to change. That could be intoxicating for a woman who's spent her life being judged. However, Phyllis being Phyllis, vulnerability doesn't come easy. Even as she's drawn to Kane, she'll try to convince herself that it's just attraction, just a rebound. But she will realize that it is more than that when she observes him struggling and the pain in his eyes. Finding someone who comprehends her internal chaos is more important than fixing him. Kane's perspective: searching for redemption. In this storyline, Kane's arc is just as compelling. He is a man haunted by lies, manipulation, and betrayal as the result of his choices. His relationship with Lily once anchored him, but now that it's gone, he's adrift. He is sick and tired of being the bad guy in everyone's stories. Phyllis sees the man behind the mistakes, not as an individual. That's powerful for Kane, who spent years trying to prove his worth to others. With Phyllis, he doesn't have to pretend. She's as flawed as he is, and that makes her safe. But that safety could quickly become dangerous. Kane might mistake their relationship for love or, even worse, use it as a distraction from his deeper problems. If Kane allows himself to grow, to let Phyllis in without losing himself, this could be his path to genuine redemption. If not, he risks repeating the same self-destructive patterns that cost him everything before. Revenge or redemption, the ultimate crossroads. Phyllis and Kane will find themselves at a crossroads between retribution and redemption as their relationship develops. Both, Phyllis against Diane Jenkins and Kane against Newman Media, have been tempted by vengeance. But now, faced with the chance to rebuild, they must decide what kind of people they truly want to be. Their bond could become the key to breaking the cycle if they choose healing over hatred. Imagine a situation in which Phyllis convinces Kane to drop his lawsuit and start something new instead, possibly a joint venture in which she and he combine their expertise in artificial intelligence. They could challenge Genoa City's power structure together, but not out of spite but out of strength. On the other hand, if they give in to their darker instincts, they could become a dangerous duo, manipulating, scheming, and pulling each other deeper into the shadows. Fans would be riveted to their screens to see which way this potential storyline goes because it could go either way. A romance that could shake Genoa City. If The Young and the Restless commits to Phyllis and Kane as a pairing, it could redefine both characters. They are volatile, unpredictable, and emotionally complex, all ingredients for typical soap opera drama. Their attraction is not the result of a love story out of a fairy tale. Rather, it is the result of fire, scars, and two people who have been through hell and somehow found each other in the ashes. Their union could also have an effect on Genoa City, breaking up old ties and forcing characters who had been friends for a long time to choose sides. Jill might see in Phyllis a threat to Kane's focus, while Victor and Nikki could view them as a potential corporate wildcard. If jealousy and unresolved feelings were to play a role, Nick and Lily's reactions alone would cause weeks of emotional turmoil. But perhaps the most intriguing twist of all would be if their romance evolves beyond fleeting passion. Phyllis and Kane could build something real, something based not on idealism or nostalgia, but on understanding and mutual survival. Together, They could prove that even the most flawed people can find light in each other's darkness. Ultimatum, distress call, and playing on strength. Spoilers for Monday, October 13's episode of The Young and the Restless give away some significant events in Genoa City. A distress call is made by one person, an employee's strengths are emphasized by another, and an ultimatum is given to another. What can we anticipate for the show on Monday? It's time to discover. The ultimatum of Victor Newman. According to The Young and the Restless. Spoilers for Monday, October 13th, Victor Newman, played by Eric Braeden, will give Joshua Morrow's Nick Newman a deadline. Be sure to check out the spoilers for this week's Y&R here. Nick wants to go to Los Angeles with Sharon Newman, Sharon Case, to be with Noah Newman, Lucas Adams, but he has been asked to stay in GC due to the Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn situation and the recently published article by Newman Media. Will Victor inform Nick that if he goes, he will be cut off from the family because he believes that all hands must be on deck for this? Read this. Peter Bergman, star of The Young and the Restless, joins Apple TV's Pluribus. What does this mean for Jack Abbott? SOS by Sharon Newman. In that regard, Sharon will call for help. It turns out that Noah has been in a serious accident, and she will panic call Nick. The Y&R promo shows a very emotional Sharon talking to Nick, and she's quite upset. Nick is likely to ignore his father's warning and board the following plane. Because Noah is his son and he needs to be by their side in this circumstance, what will happen next, and will Noah be okay? Kane Ashby builds up Phyllis Summers. Last but not least, Monday's The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest that Kane will capitalize on the strengths of Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford. He has a plan, and Phyllis might be an important part of it. Therefore, in order for her to do what he wants, he needs to make her feel more confident. But will Phyllis fall for this game of mind games? She might, particularly if she's boosting her ego. The ultimatum of Victor Newman, a power play or a father's command? As the patriarch of the Newman family, the great Victor Newman, played by Eric Braeden, is once more making his unshakable claim to power. Victor gives his son Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, a dramatic ultimatum in the episode that airs on Monday, October 13th. Victor has been the driving force behind Newman Enterprises and the unity of his family for decades, but his definition of unity frequently refers to control. Nick is put in a difficult emotional and moral situation this time by Victor's demand, which will test his loyalty to both his father and his own family. After learning about Noah's tragic accident, Nick wants to go to Los Angeles to be with Sharon Case. Victor's directive, however, stands in his way: stay in Genoa City and deal with the consequences of Kane Ashby's, Billy Flynn, recent actions and the explosive Newman Media article. Victor insists that each family member remain focused on preserving their empire's reputation because he believes that this scandal could harm the Newman brand. Victor's motivation isn't just business, though it's pride, and perhaps a need to remind Nick that no one disobeys the mustache. If Nick walks away now, he may be cut off emotionally, financially, or professionally, so his ultimatum is probably harsh. Victor has made threats of this kind before, and each time they were real. However, Nick is no longer the impulsive young man seeking approval from his father. He's matured, and this time, his heart is leading him, not the Newman name. The ultimatum prompts profound moral and emotional considerations. What does the Newman family mean by loyalty? Is it just following Victor's orders, or is it doing the right thing for the people you care about? For Nick, the choice is clear: his son's well-being comes before corporate politics. The scene between Victor and Nick is expected to be explosive, filled with years of unresolved tension. Nick's disobedience may signal yet another crack in the already fragile Newman family unit, establishing a long-term conflict between legacy and rebellion. Victor's behavior here also echoes his lifelong fear of losing control. He started with nothing, and now he feels like his life's work is being attacked by every threat, whether it's Kane Ashby's plotting or his children's independence. Stay loyal, or face exile, is both a test and a warning in his ultimatum. Because Victor has never been happy when Nick is pushed too far, this move could backfire. The more he tries to control his family, the more they slip through his fingers. Sharon Newman's SOS, a mother's fear and a family in crisis. Sharon Newman faces the worst nightmare of a parent as the Newman men fight for power and principles. After learning that her son Noah, Lucas Adams, has been involved in a terrible accident, Sharon makes a distress call, pleading for help, in Monday's episode. According to the spoilers, Sharon's world will devolve into chaos as she panics and contacts Nick. The promo shows Sharon visibly shaken, her voice trembling as she tells Nick what's happened. This isn't just a phone call, it's a cry from a mother who feels her world slipping away. Sharon has endured loss, heartbreak, and trauma countless times before, but this moment might push her to the edge again. Sharon experiences a turning point as a result of Noah's accident, which also brings back old friendships and reveals Sharon's true priorities. Nick will instinctively decide to drop everything and fly to Los Angeles, despite Victor's severe warning. It's a move that shows his compassion and sense of duty as a father, even if it costs him his place in the Newman inner circle. The enduring bond between Sharon and Nick is also highlighted in the plot. Their bond as co-parents remains unbreakable, regardless of how long they have been together or how many relationships they have had. Sharon's distress call cuts through all other conflicts, business, family loyalty, pride, reminding Nick and viewers what truly matters. Emotionally, this arc will give Sharon Case the chance to deliver some of her most powerful performances in recent memory. As Sharon grapples with the ambiguity surrounding Noah's condition, her panic, guilt, and fear will be palpable. Another possibility that Sharon's distress raises is whether this incident will strengthen her resilience or cause her to relapse into previous emotional patterns. For longtime fans, Sharon's call for help will bring back memories of her past crises, from Cass's death to Faith's near-death experiences. She has developed into a woman who carries both immense pain and fierce strength as a result of each tragedy. Sharon may find herself once more relying on Nick for support as she faces yet another potential loss. Their shared grief could reignite old feelings and perhaps even pave the way for a chic reunion down the line. When Noah's accident spreads, Victor's decision to keep Nick in Genoa City will appear heartless. Viewers can expect tension to erupt not just between father and son, but within the entire Newman clan. Nikki, Victoria, and even Adam might weigh in, each with their own take on the conflict between compassion and family loyalty. Kane Ashby builds up Phyllis Summers, manipulation masquerading as motivation. Away from the Newman turmoil, another power game unfolds between Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford. Kane will use his cunning to play up Phyllis's strengths in Monday's episode, adding to their simmering tension, attraction, and mistrust. But this isn't just about admiration, it's strategy, pure and simple. Kane is a man with a plan, and has been quietly working his way through Genoa City lately to spread his influence. He understands that Phyllis is a woman who thrives on challenge and recognition. If he can make her feel indispensable, she'll be more likely to align herself with his goals even if she doesn't realize she's being used. Phyllis has always been one of the sharpest minds in town. She's ambitious, fiery, and refuses to be underestimated. But she also has a soft spot for validation, a weakness that Kane is fully prepared to exploit. By flattering her intelligence and creativity, Kane is setting the stage for manipulation disguised as empowerment. The scenes between them are expected to crackle with chemistry. Kane's charm and Phyllis' self-assurance are a fiery combination, and if he hits the right emotional chords, sparks could fly in multiple directions. Kane might propose a partnership or collaboration under the guise of mutual benefit, but his endgame will likely be self-serving. On the other hand, despite her instincts, Phyllis might find that she is drawn in. She's been burned before by men who underestimated her or used her for their gain, from Nick to Jack to Jeremy Stark, yet she always finds a way to come out on top. This time, however, Kane's psychological tactics could challenge even her sharp defenses. The deeper theme here is trust and perception. Is Kane really attempting to empower Phyllis, or is he laying the groundwork for her demise? The decision that Phyllis made to talk to him could have an impact on the power structure of Genoa City from all directions. She runs the risk of alienating key allies and rekindling old rivalries with both the Newmans and Abbotts if she becomes a part of Kane's scheme. Phyllis, on the other hand, seems to enjoy the game just as much as Kane does. If he thinks he's manipulating her, he may be underestimating her completely. Phyllis has a long history of converting opportunity into manipulation. What begins as Kane building her up might end with Phyllis taking control and turning the tables on him, something that would be perfectly in character for her fiery, fearless nature. Emotional stakes. And the future Monday's episode of The Young and the Restless isn't just another day in Genoa City, it's a convergence of heartache, ambition, and loyalty. Victor's control, Sharon's resilience, and Phyllis's cunning are three examples of strengths that are highlighted in each storyline. Together, they paint a vivid picture of a town where emotions are weapons and family ties can be both bonds and chains. Victor's ultimatum to Nick will likely have long-term consequences for the Newman family. Nick's choice to prioritize his son will set off a chain reaction that challenges Victor's dominance and possibly fractures the family empire further. The raw humanity and maternal love of Sharon will serve as the episode's foundation, as her emotional journey will touch viewers' hearts. Meanwhile, Kane and Phyllis's subtle battle of wits will inject intrigue and unpredictability into the show's power dynamics. By the episode's end, viewers can expect shifting alliances and deep emotional fallout. When Victor discovers the full truth about Noah's condition, will he regret his harsh words? Will Sharon be able to overcome her guilt in Nick's presence, or will she find strength elsewhere? And perhaps most intriguingly, will Phyllis see through Kane's calculated flattery before it's too late? This episode of The Young and the Restless succeeds in striking a balance between dramatic tension and emotional authenticity. It reminds fans why Genoa City remains one of the most riveting fictional towns on daytime television, a place where love and loyalty are always in conflict, and where one phone call, one ultimatum, or one moment of manipulation can change everything.